G'day, greetings from Melbourne, Australia. My name is Max and I'm excited to present to you 𝗏𝗏 2355, which is a short experimental AI screen production. As a smartphone filmmaker, I really felt that I had to say something about how can we work now with accessible media in a very much imaginative way. Therefore, I termed my talk for this session ImaginAItion. And I think by the end of the session, you'll have an idea of where I'm trying to work with this, where I'm trying to head towards to. For me, I see AI as very much a production tool, as an asset that is now very much an accessible media production device, but also as an opportunity to really reflect upon what AI tells us about the world, or what the internet tells us about the world. So it's a bit of like a mirror, not from an indexical perspective, but from one of imagination and thinking about how this might open up new ideas and new visual means to create screen productions and screen stories. I would like to acknowledge that I live and work on the land of the 𝗏𝗏 people of the 𝗏𝗂 nation and pay my respect to their elders past, present and emerging. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are the original storytellers of this place, and we recognize their significant contributions to the contemporary moving image and film and television. And of course, AI has been around for quite some time, but I think the key difference for me is that now through tools like Midjourney, Adobe Firefly, which I used for this experimental work, but now also just having experimented last year with this to create a short film, now text to video emerge. And so it's a very fast moving space. But I think AI in the past was something that needed to have a computer science lab to engage with, and now it's out in the world through some tools. And that, I think, changed very much some of the ideas of how we can work with it. The other thing that I'm always very interested in is what happens to particular media forms before they very much define or have an industrial understanding of how a particular format works. So if you think about documentary as a part of the city film genre, I'm very interested in the early city films that were produced before the actual definition of the creative treatment of actuality. And that very much, of course, is a great way to think about AI in screen production, the creative treatment of actuality. But then if it's not actuality, we maybe have to change the idea of actuality to something that is artificial, or really thinking about the creative more as an imagination idea than an indexical idea. And so these are some of the things that I used to think about and very much explore what happens with AI content production. In this new form that we are now dealing with is synthetic media. It's very much in the world. It seems to be growing, and it seems to be growing quite fast. So last year, like many others, I was just excited to experiment with Midjourney, Adobe Firefly. But of course now we've seen some of the video-based creation tools, 𝗏𝗂𝗏, Runway, or OpenAI's Sora. And of course there's lots of text-based AI generation tools, most prominently ChatGPT, that introduce lots of opportunities, but at the same time so many challenges. Of course, in the idea of working with audio, there's like music creation, there's speech creation, enhancement, changes, ideas, avatars, translation. This is all beyond what I'm looking at. But I think it's just something that is now available for us to use as creators. The key difference is when I first started to explore AI in an academic context, such as in smart storytelling, which was published in the Studies of Documentary Film in 2022, that AI was very much used as a production device or a tool that needed some quite expert knowledge. So if you think about some of the great examples that I sort of talk about, AI editing a feature film, artists producing some really great screen productions, but it was not a technology that everyone could pick up and produce work with. I think that is sort of now changed with these online applications or platforms that allow you to create content production. And so for me, this is important because I approach it as a smartphone filmmaker. And there's two things that excite me. One is the accessibility for communities. So that means that once I've created some of these works, I can share this and help other people, communities find their voice and create similar ideas and representations for how they want to see themselves. But the other thing that is very important for me is that the accessibility means more experimentation. And I think that is something that if these tools are freely available or at a very low cost price, I find this quite exciting. And then it gives us also the opportunity to be really creative and think about how we can use these tools in sometimes different perceptions. And that is something that I started to do when I first worked with mobile filmmaking. So in 2006, I created Max Schleser 𝗏𝗏, and at that time, the mobile phone, yeah, maybe you could have taken some pictures with it, but it wasn't thought about as a video camera. But it creates a particular aesthetic that became the defining feature of this film, and then of some other creative artworks at that time, which I sort of explored in the aesthetic of mobile media art. So let's have a look at Max Schleser 𝗏𝗏. This is just a short extract from the 53-minute city film. And some of these interventions really make us think about and provide different opportunities for creating experiences. And here a short excerpt from Midtown. The interesting idea for me was not only filming with an iPhone, so 2013 is the time of iPhone 4, but also having apps available that help you to edit while you are on location. So very much like an artist could take the easel into the landscape, it allowed me to edit while I'm still at Times Square in New York and immersed by all the lights to shape that experience. At the same time, the music or the image manipulation all was driven by the apps and by the iPhone. And that very much creates a digital look that is very particular to smartphone filmmaking. And of course, lots of times I've referenced 𝗏𝗏 in my work, and I won't have the time to go into this now into the full detail, but the idea of the kino eye, I'm a mechanical eye, I'm a machine that shows you the world only as I can see it, I think is a particular interesting reference when we start to think about how we work with AI. Okay, so now let's have a look at MEL 2355, which premiered at the SF3 Film Festival. So I'll just very briefly now talk about the process and some of the ideas that I found as a quite interesting observation. When working with GenAI, generative artificial intelligence, of course it's about prompt design and thinking about different keywords that you then synthesize and create these image ideas, and then you can refine the images. And so my prompts were Melbourne neon lights as night taken with the iPhone. I specified that in then various variations, and I received different images. Some images were sort of more of the skyscrapers, but then I received some of the images of Melbourne, which I think very much seem like the Flinders Street, sort of the sort of Baroque, Gothic architecture. And for me, I was quite surprised, but also sometimes, oh yeah, I could see where this Melbourne is, and I might have to go out there and try to find these places. But I thought, let's maybe just do the internet do that for me. So I used Google image search. And what I found really interesting is that Melbourne wasn't actually the first choice that came up lots of times. So the city with the skyscrapers was also referenced as Frankfurt or Perth. And okay, you can see how that relationship could happen, a city with two skyscrapers or a couple of different skyscrapers by the river. For the images that came from Midjourney that had the Baroque ideas or that sort of Gothic architecture, it sort of referenced Ghent. I haven't been there, but after I did some search online, I could sort of see how that architecture is maybe more situated in a Central European idea than like in Melbourne. But I think that sort of also is part of what I really wanted to talk about, is how this AI creates different imaginations that are not indexical. So it works for maybe creating a city, but not understanding that it has to be Melbourne. And I think that is something that becomes very interesting in the idea of creating these experiences that resonate with us. It's a space that is developing quite fast moving. There's now AI film festivals, there is AI streaming platforms. And if you think about AI maybe as an extension of computational nonfiction or the iDocs, I don't think is that surprising as the next logical step. And so I think this work hopes to contribute to something that might become like a film form that speaks with its own creative processes and its own ideas of content production. So thanks very much for giving me the opportunity to share 𝗦 2355 with you. And it's for me very much a starting point of the research. So I'm looking forward to discussing the opportunities, challenges, and chances of generative AI with you. Thank you.